Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Please take a moment to relax. Your cameras and mics are already off, so feel free to move around, do whatever you need to be relaxed during the presentations today. I'm just going to take a moment to read the slide that's on the screen. In the top left-hand corner is the logo for closed captioning, and right beside that is the logo for sign language interpretation. Over to the right-hand top corner is an open lock with a heart in the middle, and it says enabling change beside it in blue. Back to the left, underneath the closed captioning logo, is the title Community Collaborations, and then that same title translated into French below. To the right of that is a picture of Erin Ball. She's partially upside down, and her hair is hanging as she moves through the air. And beside that is a picture of the building of Theatre Passe Muraille. At the bottom of the slide are the logos for our presenting partners. At the left, Orchestras Canada, then Ontario Presents. Next to that, Réseau Ontario. And finally, our funding is provided by the Ontario government. Quickly introduce you to our ASL interpreters. We have Matt and Vanessa. For LSQ today, we have Nicole and Linda. We have simultaneous French to English translation and English to French translation, and that's Marek and Christiane. And as usual, our captioning is provided by Lori. So that's real-time live captioning. We're going to get started in about 1 minute, so please take this last moment to get yourselves ready. We've got a great day lined up for us and really looking forward to today. Always remember that you can use the chat box or emojis anytime you'd like. Hi, I'm Rachel Marks. I am a middle-aged white woman with chin-length, freshly dyed purple hair. I'm wearing purple cat's eye glasses with sparkles in the corner, a black dress, and today I'm wearing silver dangly leaf earrings. My pronouns are she and her, and my sign name is an R swimming across my chest. Welcome to session 6 of Enabling Change, Accessibility for Performing Arts. Before we begin today, I'd like to pass over to Deb Maitland, Communications Coordinator at Ontario Presents. Thank you, and that is the end of my thought.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Deb of Ontario Presents. I'm a young Black woman with shoulder-length black locks adorned with gold accessories and round glasses, wearing a navy blue dress with white polka dots. On behalf of the Enabling Change team, we honor past, present, and future Indigenous peoples as the original stewards and caretakers of the lands. By living and working here, we all have the responsibility to the environment and to each other, to treat each other and the environment with peace and respect. We have responsibilities to honor, renew, and consistently uphold the values and relationships outlined in the ancient agreements. Recognizing embedded colonial structures in the performing arts sector, including ways of thinking and knowing, inspires our ongoing responsibility to decolonize our work practices and to remain committed to Indigenous resurgence and reclamation. Today, Ontario is home to Indigenous peoples and settlers from around the world. Let's all come together in an atmosphere of respect and peace to do good work together with good minds. Let's start building stronger and healthier relationships with each other and the spaces which we inhabit. Let's hold our minds together in kindness. Today's webinar is the final session in a series that explores what it means for the performing arts to be truly accessible for members of the public, artists, and audiences. With the financial assistance of the Ontario Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility, our partners at Orchestras Canada and Rezo Ontario, and as Rachel said in a previous welcome, a dream team of experts, we are pleased to share this valuable knowledge with you all today. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to pass things back over to my colleague, Lauren, for some technical information.
Thank you so much, Deb, for your welcome. Hi, everybody. This is Lauren Drew of Orchestras Canada speaking. I am a white woman in my 20s with black and red rimmed glasses, shoulder-length dark brown hair with bangs. I'm wearing a purple and blue and red kind of plaid shirt, and behind me is a gray wall. My pronouns are she, her. So I'll be taking some time to walk through some technical notes with you. So we are excited to be working with a number of professional interpreters and captioners to make today's learning as accessible as possible. So please be patient as we explain the steps to enable this technology. First, if you have any questions or technical difficulties, please reach out to Fanny Martin in the Zoom chat. She will put a message in so you know who she is. Please use the direct message function for any tech issues so we can keep the main chat focused on content. So the following tips are for desktop and laptop versions of Zoom. We recommend joining from there if possible, but it should also work on an iPad. So first, using French-English simultaneous interpretation. To turn on interpretation, navigate through your Zoom controls to the interpretation button. It should be near the bottom of the screen. You'll either see it shaped like a globe or hear the icon as interpretation. Select that icon and the following options will come up, French or English. So please note that our presenters will be presenting in English today, and they'll be interpreted into French by our wonderful American Christiane. And the PowerPoints will be shown on screen in English, but we'll paste links to French translated versions in the Zoom chat. Second, using ASL and LSQ interpretation, please make sure that you have the speaker view setting turned on. Please note that the ASL and LSQ interpreters will switch out with their co-interpreter every so often. You can move the video boxes around to reposition them so that they're a better view for you by clicking on that video feed and dragging it to wherever is best for you. Note that our presenters will be using a PowerPoint. So during the PowerPoint presentations, you can resize the screen so that it's easier to see interpreters and make the PowerPoint a little bit smaller. In order to do so, press the escape key on your keyboard to exit the full screen view of Zoom. Then you can hover your mouse in between the video feeds and the PowerPoint section. And there should be a gray line that comes up, which you can drag to the left to make the PowerPoint smaller and the video feeds bigger. Next, using live captioning during the webinar. So Lori is typing these for us. Captions are only available in English. In the bottom of the Zoom window, find the live transcript button, click the up arrow next to it, and then select show subtitle to start displaying them. To hide them, you can click the up arrow next to that and similarly click on hide subtitle. And finally, just a few privacy notes. We are recording the session. You won't show up in the recording because we've got your video and microphone muted. But you're welcome to use the chat to interact, and our host Rachel will read aloud any comments that are relevant. And we will be saving a copy of the Zoom chat to keep track of questions for Friday's coffee chat. If you don't wish to have your full name displayed, you can rename yourself by navigating to the participant list in the right corner of Zoom, right-click on your name, and then select rename. So once again, Fanny Martin is your main tech troubleshooting contact, and I'm going to pass back over to my colleague, Rachel.
This is Rachel speaking. Thanks, Lauren. I can't believe that today is our final session in the series. It seems so far away when we began our planning, but now it's here. And what an amazing way to end. We'll start with a presentation panel from Theatre Passe Muraille, and then after the break, Aaron Ball will join us. At the end, we'll circle back to TPM for a Q&A. As usual, please put any questions into the chat and I can ask those for you. If we don't get to all of the questions today, we'll put them in the parking lot for discussion on Friday. While we're talking about Friday, I'd like to remind you that pre-registration for the coffee chat is required. And if you're gonna plan to attend one, this is the one as it's the last. Basically we ask for pre-registration so that we know what access points might be needed and how many people will be attending. Just a quick overall reminder that this series is not an exhaustive look into disability rights, equity, and inclusion, but is more a diving board or thoughtful approach on how to get started or how to expand the access points that you already offer. And today we're going to focus on collaboration. All right, let's get started. We're going to start with a panel from Theatre Passe Muraille. Founded in 1968, Theatre Passe Muraille is what is colloquially known as Canada's original alternative theatre company. They're based in Tkaronto on Treaty 13 territory and aspire to be a leader locally, nationally, and internationally in establishing, promoting, and embracing collaborative and inclusive theatre practices. Amazing. TPM does this so that they can support and ignite the voices of unique artists, communities, and audiences. Today, we're joined by Marjorie Chan, Artistic Director, Jen Sartour, Producer, Angela Sun, Community Engagement Coordinator, and April Long, Artistic Associate. Before I turn it over to the team, I just want to say, in my opinion, this is the company that we can all learn best practices from. This is where we can take our cues. TPM's where it's at for accessibility. That's the end of my thought. I'm going to turn it over to the team now.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Marjorie Chan. I'm the artistic director. I am an East Asian woman. I have recently cut black shoulder length hair. I'm wearing a black sweater and a gray dress. I'm in my living room, which is fairly full of stuff and kind of has what I call pandemic clutter is what I'm calling it. On screen, we're looking at an image of Theatre Passe Muraille, Kitty Corner, which is a building in downtown Toronto or Toronto, with a red square that says access at TPM, and the words also say Theatre Passe Muraille. The only thing I wanted to add in terms of locating us specifically as a company, Rachel did such a great job, and actually, stuff to live up to as well, is that the areas that we're in Treaty 13, as mentioned, but we're also an area that's subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. And it's relevant because if you actually look at the belt, and you can actually go and see the belt at the Royal Ontario Museum, if you actually look at it, you can see it's a bowl with one spoon, and there's no fork, or there's no knife. And it speaks to sharing the resources of the land collaboratively, because you have to share that one spoon. So that is really pertinent to us and the work that we do. And this talk today, which I'm hoping will share some of our experiences working in this field and in a collaborative way by sharing all of the work from the different parts of the company that Access touches. Next slide. Just on the next slide, it has 4 banners, which have 4 words, which are really we hold as a pillar of the kind of work that we do. And the pillars say access, community, innovate, and collaborate. Beside these 4 pillars is also an image of myself, though you actually can't see me. My face is obscured because I'm wearing a face mask, and as well, I'm wearing a headset. It's a augmented reality headset, and on this particular headset, which I will talk about a little more, this particular headset, I am actually watching the deaf interpretation of a show called 1111 by Samson Bantu Brown, and it's being deaf interpreted by Courage Bacchus. As mentioned, the company has a 54-year history, and really as a theater company, we started in a place that was underground, that was counterculture at Rochdale College. Everyone was naked all the time for the shows, people were getting arrested. In any case, the company has always leaned into subverting expectations and offering collective experiences and really trying to innovate the form of theater. So that's the history that we come from. Just to locate myself personally, I've been artistic director since 2019. My family came from Hong Kong and I was raised in Scarborough, and I'm a proud Scarbarian whenever it comes up. I am a recent stroke survivor, and that's left me with some chronic conditions, and I continue to work through what that means for me in a daily life. Just to give a bit of a beginning of what an access journey for me, it began, I know the real light bulb moment for me began in 2009 when I had a play on that was produced at the Factory by Cahoots Theatre called The Madness of the Square. And the theater called me and asked, a patron has asked for a copy of your script. They would like a copy of your script before they come to the play. And I said, why do they want a copy of the script? And they said, well, the patron's deaf and but they want to be able to come. And so I thought, oh, of course, please pass on my script so that this individual can enjoy my play. I did also attend the play, and to my surprise, which was, perhaps a common practice at that time, this was 2009, the individual had come with a copy of my script, and as well had hired their own interpreter. So they had, out of their own pocket money, they'd paid for an interpreter to come with them to this play in order to enjoy it. Actually, I'm a little bit emotional because I haven't thought about it in a while. But I was actually very struck because I really understood in that moment in time the nature of my work, how it was inaccessible to that individual, and how much of a burden and how many things that individual needed to do in order to experience my work. And it was very moving for me, but I also understood at that time there was more that was possible, that both myself as a playwright and the organizations, the institutions that were producing my play, there was more to be done. And that was something I recognized in that moment. Next slide. So the image is of the red doors at Theatre Passe Muraille, and you can see some posters on the side. The door is open and there's an individual walking through. We can see her from behind. Actually, we found this image in our archives, and it's actually me entering the doors maybe about 10 years ago. You just see me from behind, and I have dark hair, very similar to now, shoulder length. And I'm walking towards the box office, which is quite brightly lit. And as well, you can see someone standing near the box office, a tall, white Caucasian man. And actually, that was the former artistic director, Andy McKim. I kind of offered this image because I like to think about it as what is this moment of being able to enter into the theater and being able to engage with an institution or an organization. And to me, it's about welcome. Even though this image is from long ago, but the door is open, I could extrapolate from looking at that not only did I feel welcome in that space, but you can feel that warmth as I'm coming through. And from that kind of drawing on a philosophy of an approach, because I think it's very easy for anyone, any company, any artist to make the statement, no, everyone is welcome. No, anyone can come to the theater. We want everyone to come. We're inclusive. That's the beginning. And certainly that's an important sentiment. Now, once your doors are open, what does that actually mean for the individual themselves? Do they actually feel welcome? And beyond welcome, do they actually feel any kind of, ownership or attachment to a building, to a show, to be able to see something? And so that's the kind of approach, to really take that to the furthest end, to that empathetic end, so that whether an individual does feel that when they're in the space, in a particular environment, and whether that actually is manifested in the way you treat them through the whole of their interaction, whether they're audience or artist or donor or someone else working with your theater, how do they feel when they are engaged with your organization? Thank you so much. So I'm going to show a little video just in a moment, but just to give you a little bit of context. So as I mentioned, TPM's former artistic director, Andy McKim, was in that last image. This is like kind of the beginning of TPM's access journey. I was artistic director of Cahoots at the time, and with Andy McKim and myself, this is maybe 2013 or 14, we had discussed a playwright that had met at a conference, and this playwright was deaf playwright Adam Pottle, and the play he wrote was Ultrasound, which is about 75% in ASL. And it's about a deaf couple who faced a decision when they realized that their unborn child would likely be hearing. So I directed the premiere of this play, and it was co-produced by those two companies in 2016 at Theatre Passe Muraille. It started two deaf actors, Elizabeth Morris and Chris Dodd, who you will see in the video, and was really just the beginning of TPM's accessibility journey that really kind of exploded. And I do want to give credit to the former artistic director, Andy McKim, for embracing that and making sure that access was important in all aspects of everything that happens at TPM. I'm going to show the trailer, which is not that long, but to give you a sense of the video, it is images from the production with the two actors who play a couple who are expecting a baby. So we do see scenes of them in the relationship. They're cuddling and they're talking about family and they're arguing as couples do. In some of the scenes, in addition to the actors, we also see the captioning in various places, which is behind or very near the actors' heads, and moved with them as they moved about the stage. And as well, there's various quotes about the show, which I will do my best to read in real time as well, kind of accounting for this, hearing the sound from the video. It says Ultrasound, written by Adam Pottle. Designing about family. Enlightening. Ultrasound is a rich and powerful production, writing, captioning, sound, and set design. Our party consisted of deaf, and hearing. Ultrasound is a beautiful, heartbreaking, and informative theater. Go see it. Not an agenda. This is our family, and that's a quote from the play. Promotional image of Ultrasound. Thank you. I apologize. I did practice, but I was not fast enough to be able to get those quotes. I'm wondering if we want to just freeze screen them, or should we move on? Great, thank you. So one of the quotes was about this play was enlightening in its multilinguistic richness, a very stimulating evening. Ultrasound is a rich and interesting piece of work, done great justice here by the company. Alphonse, which is the character name, delivers Sonnet 29 with gestural eloquence in American Sign Language. It wasn't dance, it wasn't mime, it was embodied poetry, felt and physicalized, and a delight to watch, even if you don't understand ASL. And I think we read the rest of them, so I think we're good in that respect. So just to say that if that was the beginning of our journey, in terms of our access journey here at TPM. This is a more recent example. As I mentioned previously, I was talking a bit about wearing an augmented reality headset and experiencing deaf interpretation through augmented reality. So this last summer, we released some short documentaries on something that we had called Accessibility Labs, which was funded by the Toronto Arts Council Open Door projects. And for us, as we've come to define it, and it's a evolving description, is that the Accessibility Lab is basically a workshop that's pre-production and quite a few months or even years ahead of a production. And its primary focus is to explore accessibility, and its primary focus is to explore accessibility while the play is in development. And the reason is to have the thinking around the accessibility at the same time that you're thinking about the dramaturgy and the development of the work. You want to do this early enough while the piece is actually still taking place, so the accessibility and the aesthetic can live side by side and begin to influence each other. We explored a number of creative entry points into this intersection of accessibility and dramaturgy, as well as accessibility and technology. And on the slide, there's some images of the various projects being explored. There's an Asian dance artist, her hands are outstretched. We have a tap dancer dancing on a floor that is mic'd. Then we have a close-up of a phone with an image of a deaf interpreter on it. It's also Courage. And two people speaking into microphones. We have a deaf performer standing next to a hearing performer, a performer holding a feather aloft from a dance performance, and a designer seen in her home working remotely through Zoom while we were working in the TPM space. And lastly, we have an image of a deaf writer and performer working from their home in Montreal. And just to stay slightly thematic, we're going to share just a little clip from one of our projects, and that's the one where we're exploring the interpretation through augmented reality, as well as and we'll just share just a little bit of that.
Get started when Melissa gives us the green light.
So just to share, we see a screen with Courage Bacchus, a deaf interpreter. She's getting ready to film. And this is Courage.
Natasha Bacchus, but I prefer to be referred to as Courage. And this is my sign name.
This is the voice of the interpreter.
The day when we first started, I was curious and very excited, and I do remember working with Jacob, asking so many questions that first night, and thinking about, I liked that Jacob, in being so inquisitive, that meant that he's interested in our culture and interested in what we're doing, and we don't necessarily have that when we work with people. And so I think working on access for the community, I'm very much appreciative that that's the process that we've undertaken. Jacob and the other individuals working with the tech, working with the augmented reality, I noticed that on Zoom, I was having a hard time really understanding. On Zoom, when you have closed captioning on Zoom, sometimes it's hard to figure out what's being referenced. But when they talked about augmented reality, possibly including an interpreter, I was thinking, how can you as a hearing person even envision this level of access? I've never tried that technology before. I don't know if it works for me, but I think it's strange that a hearing person is a person who conceived of this access for the deaf community. And it really made me think. All week I've been reflecting on it and thinking about this project, and I can't let it go.
So just in terms of that particular project, we've continued to work through, we've tried other iterations of it, just with iPads, just with filming, and we're hoping to implement that at some point in the future for production with augmented reality in the future. So that's just a little bit about kind of the access journey that's happened at TPM. I'll let the rest of my team move forward with some more specific projects. We're going to move on to our producer, Jen Sartor, who does extraordinary work behind the scenes, making sure we're all in the right place in the right time, and making sure and coordinating the access here at TPM.
Hello, hi, I'm Jen Sartor. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the producer, as Marjorie said. And as part of my role, I handle a lot of the logistics for accessibility programming, such as contracting and scheduling our consultants, interpreters, and audio describers. I'm going to give a visual description of myself. I am a white woman in my 30s with brown hair and clear glasses. I'm wearing a blue sweater, and I'm sitting in my office, which has yellow walls, some pictures behind me, and a door. I am going to share a bit about one of TPM's first digital accessibility experiences, specifically the show called Speculation by Leslie Ting, which was a Theatre Passe Muraille presentation of a Leslie Ting production and was available online in March 2021 for 4 performances, and then again as a digital tour as part of the Folda Festival. So on screen, there are 2 photos by Dahlia Katz. The left photo is Leslie Ting playing the violin with a pianist in the background. It's dark with beams of different colored light shining forward. And the photo on the right is Leslie sitting, looking off to the right with a vertical bar of light behind her. In Speculation, Leslie Ting, playing herself, is a former optometrist and now a professional violinist. She takes the audience through a theatrical reimagining of a concert, which witnesses her mother's loss of vision and eventual passing. This is created through projections and music from both Beethoven and John Cage, featuring experimental film and the collective performance of Cage's 433, which I will talk about in a little while. Speculation was supposed to be an in-person production, but due to COVID was reimagined as a digital production. There were a lot of challenges for filming because at the time theaters could not film in our own venues. So we had to rent a media studio to film the production, and there were capacity restrictions as well as, so we had to be very specific about who was in the space and when they were in the space. Thank you. So on this slide are the accessibility features we had for the performance, as well. There's an image of the YouTube video of our ASL promotion for the show, which has a still image of our on-screen interpreter for the show, Thurka Kanagaskaram Pillai, and they are on a yellow background with red bars on either side of them. And I'm going to read through the features and then talk about each of them. So the show was an auditory experience, which included a 7-minute audio introduction. It was a relaxed performance run. So all the shows were relaxed performances. It had 2 ASL performances with the deaf interpreter. And for the Folda Festival, there were captions, including live captioning of 433. For the Folda Festival, because we were able to add captions, we had a unique opportunity to have captions for a live call-in portion of the show. So everyone called a phone number during the performance and they listened. John Cage's 433 is a composition written by an experimental composer, John Cage, and the score instructs the performers not to play their instruments during the entire duration of the piece, which is 4 minutes and 33 seconds long. Jess Watkins, a blind and disabled artist and scholar, was hired to caption any sounds which were heard over the phone. For example, rustling, a cat meowing, a door closing, microphones rubbing fabric. Speculation was described as an auditory experience with the following description, which was crafted with the help of Alex Bulmer, who was the show's co-director, voice coach, and access consultant. Speculation has been created to include audiences who are blind or have low vision. The play is complete as an audio experience. In addition to its strong oral aesthetic, the show includes a series of projections that artistically express how differing forms of vision loss affect seeing. So this meant instead of doing a full audio description throughout the performance, we opted to have a 7-minute audio introduction, which described all of the visual elements of the show. And there were also some small sections of audio description in the piece as well. Another important part of making the show an auditory experience was communicating pre-show all the information about the show, specifically to be screen reader friendly, and especially for John Cage's 4:33, which was a bit of a different experience for everyone, and which was the live call-in portion of the show. Next slide, please. A digital relaxed run. So the show included a pre-show introduction, which introduced the characters, any content warnings. It welcomes the audience to the show to get comfortable, eat snacks, pause if needed. And the post-show survey showed that people really appreciated the ability to watch the show afterwards. So we were able to put the show on screen at a specific time, and then people could watch it for 36 hours after that time, performance time, which really it was an easy change to make and made a really big impact. Specifically, someone in the post-show survey said that they put their kids to sleep at 7:30, so they couldn't watch the show then, but they were able to watch it after. Active listening was available over Zoom. And if you're not familiar with active listening, that's non-medical professionals giving emotional support to audience members should they have any trouble with the content of the work. And there was also a visual story, which was a guide, including the content warnings, background about the piece, and any culturally specific things, people, places. I'd like to show a short excerpt of the interpreted performance so you can see how we presented it. In the video, Leslie and Durga are split screen, and just as a warning, the lighting on Leslie will change gradually throughout this clip.
My mother had 7 eye surgeries in total. In the spring of 2007, after the surgeries to try to control her eye pressure, came the first corneal transplant. The cornea is the clear dome-shaped window at the front of the eye where you would put a contact lens. The now chronic inflammation had damaged her cornea to the point that it could not stay clear. A transplant is a pretty significant surgery. Recovery is long and slow in the best case, let alone hers. I was not around much at this time. I was living miles away in Montreal, where I was making a career move into music that I'd wanted for a long time. My mother and I spoke mostly over the phone, and so from the outside, it might have looked like we got along better. But I think she was worn out from trying to recover her vision, and I was worn out from anticipating what our conversations would be like. And anyway, we had decided years ago who each other was, and had frozen each other into those people. So there wasn't much to talk or argue about anymore. Back when Beethoven was writing his will, in the middle of writing about the despair of his hearing loss and how he can't take much more, he also writes, "My art is all that held me back. It would have been impossible for me to leave this world until I had brought forth everything that was within me."
So when hiring an ASL team, we usually hire a deaf interpreter or more than one, depending on the performance, ASL interpreters, community consultants, and sometimes an ASL coach as well. For this project, because of COVID and various things, Durga was actually the deaf interpreter as well as the community consultant, and we had 2 ASL interpreters as well. A consultant, I think, is really helpful, and I would recommend hiring them all the time. It helps oversee lighting, costume, placement on stage. I think it's always a good idea to have that outside observer to the piece. Yeah, I hope this gave everyone an idea of some options for accessibility features for digital performance. And even though we had to change plans many times for this production for COVID, there were parts of the flexibility that we had for this, and the trust that we gained from the team for being able to talk through everything with them, which made the show really rich. Specifically, the additions of the live captioning, which we had never done in that way before with Jess, and in the increased clarity around our pre-show communications to better connect with the blind and low vision audience members, as well as adapting to new plans with the ASL team. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over to Angela.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Sun, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator here at Theatre Pass Marae. As I already said, I am an East Asian woman with a round face, gray glasses. I'm currently wearing white headphones and a black dress with pink flowers on it. I will be using the same format of slides as my colleagues. The background is white with one light red line running across the bottom. The heading, Who Am I, is in light red font at the upper left corner. And there are bullet points on the slides, but all the information will be embedded into my presentation. As mentioned, I am the Community Engagement Coordinator of Theatre Pass Marae, and I started in this newly created position in 2020. As a part of my job, I have the privilege of not only reaching out to communities about the work that we do, but also curating programming that brings communities who normally do not find themselves represented on stage into our theaters. Some of the events and programs that I work on at TPM include our monthly book club, the Prelude, our series of community events inspired by our shows, our community days, an outdoor activation where we give out free snacks to our neighborhood, our accountability to equity framework, and more. As you can imagine, there is a lot going on at TPM. Outside of Theatre Pass Marae, I also identify as a Chinese Canadian theater artist and as a member of the MAD and disability community myself, and have been fortunate enough to be able to bring this lived experience into my work, consulting on some of TPM's emotional support / active listening practices. There's also one more important thing you should know about me, and it is represented by the one image on the center of this slide, is an image of me photoshopped into a black and white photo of the Korean K-pop boy band, BTS. We are standing and sitting against a pink background with two thin red columns running down either side of the image. As you can see, my identity as a member of the BTS army is also very important to me. And there's even a purple arrow pointing to me at the top of this image. Now I'll be moving on to the second slide. I am here speaking to you today because I wanted to reflect on some of the important points I learned while working in this community-centric position for a company whose mandate revolves around community, accessibility, and representation. One of the first things I learned on the job was the importance of reaching out to a diversity of artists and community members for collaboration and consultation. This may seem very obvious, but I think it's always worth reflecting upon. Are you reaching out to artists, consultants, and administrators with intersectional lived experiences? Are you hiring disabled artists who are also a part of communities of color and or the LGBTQ+ communities? Can you address the access needs of folks who are multiply disabled? It was in consultation with Black deaf artist and former deaf Olympian Courage Bacchus that I gained more awareness about how the perspectives of IBPOC deaf artists are often underrepresented, even in deaf-led organizations and events, and that we needed to be even more intentional in reaching out to and hiring deaf artists of color. The right side of the slide is a collage of images from our various community events. The uppermost image is of a yellow banner from our community event series, The Prelude, featuring the headshot of Black deaf dance artist, Dr. Janelle Rouse, and deaf Tamil queer artist, Thurga Kanengasarampine. Similarly, the second banner has headshots of Asian Canadian artist Jeff Yun and white disabled queer artist Patricia Allison from our community conversation event with Shakespeare in the Rough. And the third image is of the cover of Asian American disabled activist Alice Wong's Disability Visibility, which was a selection we read last year for our book club. Learning from all of these artists and activists not only gave me insight into thinking about equity within disability communities, but also helped me really think about the details of what we are doing. Like, for example, the importance of booking ASL interpreters of color to more authentically represent the perspectives in the room. Working with disabled artists have taught me to take my time, do my research, and not be afraid of asking questions. And now we are on the third slide. But as we know, taking notes is not enough. Are we questioning our practices based on these learnings? Are we as individuals, as an institution, truly open to changing the way we've always done things, even in small ways? I would now like to play a short clip from our digital prelude event for Speculation, the show that Jen just mentioned, with blind author Ryan Knighton speaking about his memoir, Cockeyed, with our board member, Darren Cooper, an accessibility specialist and also a member of the blind community.
Masculinity. And when I looked at it from that point of view, like the sort of my relationship to blindness became much clearer to me what it was about, because I had no model for how to go blind, and I had no model for what it was to be a blind man. You know, it's like I was raised by a sighted father, and so like my model fell away with it. So that was part of, I mean, I learned so much from writing this book that I still carry with me, but that lesson about.
Some of you may have noticed that it is a Zoom audio recording. During our planning session, Ryan asked if he could just leave his camera off because he wouldn't be able to see how to position himself. His comment made me reassess what a Zoom event has to be like, and we shifted to an entirely audio live event where only the ASL interpreter was on screen, and the recording of the event we uploaded is fully audio with captioning. It's a pretty small change, but I hope it conveys a larger message. Why should we prioritize sight at this event when it is not a priority in the lives of our panelists? In a world where ableism is often the status quo, I've learned the importance of saying yes and expressing gratitude for challenges to my paradigms. Being open to change has allowed for our programming to become much more rich and varied.
Hi, everyone. My name.
And now we're on to slide 4. The final lesson I've learned, and it's a pretty big one, is that we will all make mistakes, but how we respond to these call-ins is what truly determines our commitment to progress. Last year for our book club, our team selected a book to accompany our show Speculation that our community told us was a problematic portrayal of the blind experience. We listened, we issued a public apology, and expressed gratitude to our community for the feedback. We then worked with the show creator, Leslie Ting, and our board member, Darren, to make a different selection, which happened to be Ryan's book. This year, I worked in collaboration with our artists to select a book that more authentically reflects their work. This situation not only gave us the opportunity to examine how we went about curating our programming, but also led us to hosting the event with Ryan that you just heard from. I would encourage more of us to think of call-ins as opportunities rather than attacks. How can critical feedback inspire us to transform rather than give up? How can we start a dialogue instead of a debate? How can we apologize better and acknowledge the labor of those who instructed us on how we can do better? There's one image on this slide, and it is a GIF of Asian Canadian actor Sandra Oh in a purple top on the right side of the slide saying, "I don't know how to do any of this." If the iconic Sandra Oh can admit that she sometimes has no idea what she's doing, I think we can admit that we all might make a mistake. I also think it is possible to forgive yourself if you do the work and you are open to creating change. So I just want to end my presentation on a hopeful note, a love letter, if you will, to my fellow disabled artists and arts administrators. Thank you so much for the work that you do, because it can be hard, it can be so tiring, but we are magic. We create possibilities and flexibility in rigid spaces that constantly tell us that we are not allowed to bring who we are into the room. We do this work because we know that we are the future. Your work makes me want to be more innovative, to envision a world where we can be together in all of our fullness. And to our allies, we need you. Please join us. Please conspire with us. And please continue doing this work with us. Thank you. And now I will pass it on to April Leung, our wonderful artistic associate, about what the future holds at Theatre Passe Muraille.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. I really appreciate that introduction, and I think kind of a wonderful segue into what the future holds. First, my name is April Leung. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the artistic associate here at Theatre Passe Muraille. I am an East Asian woman with long black hair. I currently have black headphones on. I am sitting in the Theatre Passe Muraille office with some construction in the background from our windows. So I am an artist based here in Toronto, but I spent my formative years in Hong Kong. My creative works tend to be based around the Chinese hyphenated Canadian identity, relationships formed through food and food cultures, as well as emergent and surveillance technologies, which is very exciting because I get to speak about all the wonderful technologies and renovations that are that we're bringing to TPM as part of the whole revamp. So what does the future hold? Let's start in the lobby. This is a current image of our lobby. In the picture, you can see that there is a box office that is not accessible with 2 counters and a working space in the center. There's a hallway to the left of the picture, which leads to our original washrooms, which were gendered, that have since been made all gender, but it is still very much a part of the infrastructure. On the right of the image are 2 sets of red double doors that lead to our main space theater. As part of the infrastructure renovations, we are opening up the lobby by removing the fixed box office to allow easier access to ticketing if necessary, and also to have more space in the lobby for folks with mobility aids. We are also renovating our bathrooms, so there will be individual bathroom rooms with a communal sink in the center outside of the stalls. We will also have a large accessible universal washroom with space for a large adult change table to be installed in the future. And as part of these upgrades, we will also be getting some LED captioning displays, which will have a viewing distance of 100 feet, and they will allow for easier captioning for deaf and hard of hearing audiences, as well as translate shows that are not performed in English, or to translate shows into a language for the community it's intended for. This display will also allow us to use speech to text for any sort of auxiliary programming we have, like Q&As and guest speakers. And as part of our renovations, we are also switching up our backspace theater. So on the image on the left, it shows inaccessible seating with space for 2 wheelchair users in the front. And on the image on the right, it shows a raised stage. These are both images of what our backspace theater used to look like. In our renovations, we took out all of the seating and removed the raised stage. We are replacing these with retractable seating to be able to use the entire space, and the seating additionally is flexible, so we can only use a few rows to be pulled out so we can accommodate more mobility device users. As well, in the first few rows, It will be seating without arms. And so for people who are looking for a bit more comfort and space to enjoy a show, they're welcome to sit there. The floor itself will be a dance-friendly floor, which is actually a basketball or a gym floor, but it'll be much better for performers' knees and joints. And in addition to that, we will be set up for streaming so we can more easily share work virtually in the future. And so that is a very quick summary of all the fun changes that are happening to our theater and the small ways we are making our space more and more accessible. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us for this presentation. We are Theatre Passe Muraille. Our website is www.passemuraille.ca. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or if we can help you with any thoughts or queries in the future. I know that myself and my team are always very excited to help share the knowledge that we have and to hopefully make spaces more accessible and friendly in the future for people here at TAPM and also across Toronto and across Turtle Island. Thank you, end of thought.
This is Rachel speaking. Thank you to everyone on the TPM panel. We're now going to take a bit of a shortened break and we'll be back at 2:35, so that's 6 minutes. Please note that during the break, we'll be doing a quick tech run for Erin Ball. So you might notice slides up, but don't worry, you're not missing the presentation. Again, we'll be back at 2:35. Thank you for taking a shortened break with us. End of thought. Hello and welcome back from the break. This is Rachel speaking. I'd like to introduce you to the final presenter of our afternoon and of our series, Erin Ball. Erin Ball is a white double below knee amputee and circus artist based in Cataraqui, Kingston, Ontario. Her art focuses on access, collaboration, inclusion, and representation. Just before we begin Erin's presentation, please note, put your questions for Erin in the chat box and I will ask those on your behalf and we'll answer them as we go. We have another amazing, wonderful presenter today, so I'm going to end my thought and hand it over to Erin.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Hi, everyone. This is Erin Ball speaking. I use she and her pronouns. As Rachel said, I'm a white double below knee amputee. I also identify as MAD from the MAD Pride movement, and I'll explain that later. I'll share a content warning for my presentation today and context about why to give one. Ultimately, it's about consent. Content warnings give people control over their situations and allow them to choose whether or not this will be appropriate at this moment. So the content warning for today, mention of amputation, suicidal thoughts, oppression, and the effects of colonialism on Indigenous people. Please take care of yourselves as needed. We can only do the best that we can with the information that we have. Some of this material could be information you did not have. This is not about judgment or shaming. It's about sharing information so that we can work towards change. We're all learning and we all make mistakes. I know that the process can sometimes be uncomfortable. Again, please take care of yourselves, take a break if you need to, or reach out to someone. I was born on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Ojibwe. And in 1701, the Dish with One Spoon Treaty was negotiated so that other nations could share the land for hunting. Today, people from the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, Métis, and Inuit communities reside side by side with settlers and recent newcomers. This territory, as Rachel mentioned, is called Cataraqui, and it's also known as Kingston, Ontario. For me, moving forward with justice in mind means learning and remembering the true history of this land and creating good connections with Indigenous communities who are here today. I also acknowledge that there is ongoing harm, murder, no access to clean drinking water, and so much more. I'm committed to being active around Indigenous rights and dismantling systemic oppression, both in my artistic practice and outside of it. I support Land Back, and I encourage non-Indigenous folks to reflect on concrete actions that we can take to support the original caretakers of this land. Thank you to Lauren, Rachel, orchestras, and everyone else involved for inviting me to share. And thank you all for being here today. Collaboration and access aesthetics. Language and concepts evolve, sometimes quickly, and I'm still learning every day. Some of the ideas that I will share might be completely different, even in just a short period of time. I apologize if I cause any harm, and I also want to be very clear that I speak only for myself, and I am not a representative or speaking for the disability community. Next slide, please. The image description: Erin, me, a white femme and double below knee amputee, hangs upside down with flaming red hair and a flowing red dress. She arches backwards powerfully over the top of an aerial hoop that is suspended in the air. She smiles as she spins and listens to Bon Evans music. And the photo is by Virginia Maria Photography. Circus arts is the way that I share stories. I was a circus artist and a coach, both before and after becoming a double below knee amputee in 2014. And I sometimes, actually often, hesitate about telling my disability story for a few reasons. First, not everybody has a story, and this can lead to feeling less than. And second, some stories are traumatic, and sometimes the listeners aren't equipped to support and listen. For these reasons, I think it's inappropriate to ask someone what happened. The other reason that I hesitate is that I don't want to come across as a story of overcoming. I think that narrative is harmful to the disability community. I'm living my life as an amputee, and through a series of events, I have become comfortable in doing so. Disability is my identity. It never goes away, and I'm proud of it today. I don't have a desire to overcome disability because it's not a bad thing. And we can go to the next slide. And the image description for the slide: 5 digital images surround the words, "Not overcoming, disability is not bad." The images are of people who are visibly disabled. There are people of various ethnicities with prosthetic limbs, a walker, a cane, and a wheelchair. Now that I have shared my thoughts on the potentially harmful side of sharing my story, I hope that as I briefly discuss what happened, it will serve as context and not an expectation for disabled people. I am sharing it to give context around some of the collaborative work that I'll share shortly and how I became interested in access aesthetics. I went for an unexpected walk in the woods in the winter, and I was not wearing waterproof boots. I was in a swampy area and my feet got wet. Because my feet were wet, I developed severe frostbite and could no longer walk. Ultimately, I ended up lost in the woods for 6 days. At least half of that time, I was unconscious. When I was found, my body temperature was 19 degrees Celsius. I was unconscious at that time and a mile away from my car. I spent a year in the hospital after that time. And after a few months, amputation surgery was performed on both of my lower legs. After that, I had to dig deep to decide if I could continue living. Movement and arts had been my whole life, and I wasn't sure that it would still be available to me. And after I made the decision that I did, in fact, want to continue living, I also made the decision that I would continue with circus arts. And I had absolutely no idea what that meant at the time. I knew very little about disability. And what I did know was largely from mainstream society's perception. It is often the harmful idea that we should all strive to have a body that is four-limbed, upright, walking, etc., and a mind that is predictable, so-called normal or sane. I began what I now believe is a lifelong process of undoing ableism and saneism, which I'll explain in a moment, within myself, and I started relearning circus. Ableism is discrimination against disabled people. It can be direct or indirect. It can be through language, actions, lack of access, stereotypes. It can be systemic, structural, etc. And I really like Talila A. Lewis's definition of ableism, and I'm going to share it. And when I'm done speaking, I'll put a link in the chat as well. A system of assigning value to people's bodies and minds based on societally constructed ideas of normalcy, productivity, desirability, intelligence, excellence, and fitness. These constructed ideas are deeply rooted in eugenics, anti-Blackness, misogyny, colonialism, imperialism, and capitalism. This systemic oppression that leads to people and society determining people's value based on their culture, age, language, appearance, religion, birth or living place, health or wellness, quote unquote, and or their ability to satisfactorily reproduce or produce, quote unquote, excel, and quote unquote, behave. You do not have to be disabled to experience ableism. And to briefly touch on saneism, it is discrimination against people who have interacted with the mental health system, been pathologized, identify as having mental health differences, etc. And along with this is the counter, which I mentioned earlier, the Mad Pride movement. It began in Toronto and came from the psychiatric survivors movement. The word mad is a reclaimed word and celebrates unique and diverse brains and experiences. It also does not frame madness with some of the typical stigmas of being inherently bad or a struggle. There are benefits and life is valuable because of the mental health spectrum. There are many other forms of oppression that intersect with ableism and saneism, systemic racism, homophobia, transphobia, etc. They're all products of the systems, structures, and stereotypes in our capitalist society that was founded via colonialism. I don't think that we as individuals are to blame for the way that things are, but we as individuals can make changes. I used to think that disability was a bad thing. I thought it meant not being able to do things. Through experiential learning and connecting to the disability community, today I understand that it is a unique and important part of human life. It is not inherently bad. It is living in a world that was not set up with everyone in mind. Today, I use it as a reclaimed word, and I use it with pride. I use it as a connection to those who have taught me, I use it as a connection to those who have come before me, those who are here now, those who have taught me, and those who will be here in the future. What I have discovered is that disability lends itself very well to collaboration and interconnectedness. Most of us need people sometimes, and in my experience, it enriches everything. Artistic collaborations that involve disability, deafness, and disability madness. I'm using disability as a blanket term, and I know that is not all encompassing. I am referring to anybody who self-identifies. Artistic collaborations that involve disability, etc., have created deep connections and have pushed my practice in lovely and sometimes challenging ways that have encouraged growth. I will share a clip of a collaboration about my story, which I just shared. The video was sponsored by Skeleton Park Arts Festival and the Disability Collective. It's called 2014, and it was created in collaboration with many people, which they're all actually in the credits, so I'll just let that play. I share this video knowing that it won't be accessible for everyone, and I don't think that anything could be, which I'll touch on later. However, I believe that we can work to create as much access as possible and work cross-culturally. By offering multiple points of entry to work, spaces, and ideally all things, I believe we can create change and enhance experiences by considering access from the start and using access as aesthetics. The video offers open audio description and audio of Georgina Riel's poem, as well as open captions and ASL interpretation. It may be overwhelming for some. Please take breaks again if you need to. The video is 5 minutes and 55 seconds, and we'll go to the next slide, and that is the end of my thought.
Content warning. Challenging subject matter. References to emotional and physical trauma, amputation, and being lost. Erin, a white woman with tattoos and bright red hair, lays on her side. White fabric streaming down from the ceiling is wrapped around her waist. Red flower petals configured in the shape of a heart surround her and camouflage the bottoms of her legs.
6 days, 144 hours, 8,640 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Description. Digital images of 10 diverse people are across the top of the screen. Below the images in large text is the word collaboration. In my opinion, collaboration is a necessary part of accessibility because we can't possibly know someone else's lived experience. And in order to create more access, I think more collaboration needs to happen. Bringing in as many perspectives as possible and offering several ways to take in information. This means consultants, access providers, disability dramaturgy, artists who explore different mediums, artists of different cultures, and so much more. In my experience, it has led to more people being able to access the work, incredible knowledge sharing, connections, learning and unlearning, deep stories, and creative methods of working and producing work. Next slide, please. Collective Imagination was a project, or is a project, that I was asked to do by the City of Kingston. The question that was asked was, where do we go from here? I thought about it. I was asked to do this as a solo artist, but for me, it had to involve community and collaboration. I asked Inuk artist Kayla McLean and trans artist Luca Tucker to be involved. All of the collaborators are people who are connected to Cataraqui or Kingston, and they were asked to share about their identities if they wanted to, as well as imaginings of and stories of letters and shapes and how they might imagine their bodies, and a letter that might represent them and any stories that they wish to share. The collaborators imagined positions for themselves. They sent photos and ideas to the artists, and together we created a collective imagination. We collaborated on the choice of words, the imaginings of shapes, visuals, etc. Our response: to go anywhere from here, we must do it collectively, value lived experience, and sharing our own stories, as well as considering who is being left out. And the image description: artwork of people and their bodies creating shapes of letters that spell out the words collective imagination. The people are diverse, with visibly disabled people, Indigenous people, queer and trans people, Black people, people of color, and white people. Next slide, please. And that is on a bus shelter in downtown Kingston, Cataraqui. Oh, I didn't realize it was, yeah, I'm gonna just talk for a moment before we start the video, please. Lauren. Thank you. I began some explorations last year about how to offer access and ideally not overwhelm people. In addition to asking the question, can lyrics of a song be used as access? I'm going to share some pre-show notes, and pre-show notes are an attempt to capture everything that could not be included in the actual piece and to help set the stage. So the video will start after the pre-show notes, and the video is 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Content warning for this video, mention of amputation and ableism. 2 strands of white fabric cascade down from the ceiling, like a set of train tracks disappearing into the distance. I'm Erin, a white femme and double below knee amputee, and I used to ride freight trains. The sense of freedom and adventure of being on a freight train without knowing the destination is similar to the sensations I experience while moving in the air without prosthetic legs. I move up and down vertically on the billowing fabric. The highest I go is about a story up. Full height, half height, etc. will be referenced, and it is referring to the space between the floor and the top of the fabric. I also talk about leg puppets in the piece. I sometimes draw faces or stick googly eyes on my lower legs and shake them around, giving them voices and characters. Bon Evans joins me on stage in the video. He is a white male with a dapper sense of style. He plays a 12-string hollow body electric guitar made in the custom shop at Godin Guitars. Watching me on the fabric in this piece made him feel dizzy. This was created in collaboration with blind access consultant, Amy Amanti. Next slide, please, and end of thought.
This is not a story about overcoming or inspiration. It's a journey. We all have them. Most people's standard climb involves wrapping their feet. I use my inner thighs. I get a lot of fabric burns in awful places.
And next slide, please. Image description. A digital image of a dying flower and its leaves is in the top left corner. Below the image is the text, why collaboration might not work. Typically, every collaboration has brought about learning, conversations, connections, and more. The main reasons that I have experienced collaborations not working are around not listening, lack of consent, lack of flexibility, leaving access too late in the process, not consulting those with lived experience, and not checking in. I have had audio description done without my consent, and words were used that were harmful that I heard while a performance was happening. And it all could be avoided if we have those consent conversations and discuss these things in advance. Next slide, please. Things that we can do and consider. Time. Access takes time. Disabled people also take time living their lives. It often takes disabled people longer to do things since we're navigating a world that wasn't set up for us. We can connect with the communities that we're trying to engage. Lived experience is crucial. Guessing at access often doesn't work despite best intentions. People with lived experience know what they need and we can never truly know someone else's experience and guess at what that might be. Funding, paying those with lived experience, valuing that experience, and knowing again that we can't truly know somebody else's experience. Creativity, what will create the most access and serve the work the best. Access can enhance art and situations for many. Access notes. I don't believe there is such a thing as fully accessible. I think we can't possibly imagine every person's situation and access needs. And access needs sometimes conflict. However, we can strive to offer the most access possible and consult directly with communities we're trying to engage. And if we offer access notes in advance and websites and any promotional material, et cetera, any event, then we're giving people information so that they can, again, consent to whether or not it will work for them. Feedback, we can get feedback on what works and what doesn't, and that can help us to do better next time. If we all strive to make changes and consider access, we are ultimately making things better for everyone. Many of us will join the Disability Club someday, and my hope is that it is celebrated instead of feared. Thank you so much for being here. On the next slide, please, is my contact information, which I can also put in the chat, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So KingstonCircusArts@gmail.com. And I will also put that quote about ableism into the chat.
Thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate you coming today. I know you're in rehearsals. Am I correct? You're in rehearsals right now?
Not exactly rehearsals, another meeting.
So Erin, I think is going to have to run fairly soon. This is Rachel speaking. So thank you to Erin and also Marjorie, Jen, Angela, and April for today's amazing presentations. I think for me, the biggest takeaways from today's sessions were the idea of ownership by an audience at an art space, as mentioned by Marjorie. Angela's thoughts about using callouts as opportunities for growth rather than viewing them as attacks. And Erin's thoughts on collaboration being absolutely necessary to achieve access. What about you? What's going to sit with you, all of you out there? What's going to stay with you from today's presentations? We have about 10 minutes now where we can ask questions and discuss the information brought up in the presentations. Feel free to enter your thoughts. Well, actually less than 10 minutes. Feel free to enter your thoughts and comments in the chat box and we can go from there. If we don't get to them all today, we will have Erin and all of the rest of our panel together on Friday. So I invite now our folks and our friends at TPM to turn their cameras on so that we can spotlight you in case there are questions. We've had a lot of positive comments about the information presented today, but no questions so far. So I'm going to start with a question, if that's okay. And my question is, often access is a process that happens after a season has been chosen or the event has been completely rehearsed. With that in mind, I'm wondering if folks from Pass Mariah can speak a little more to the labs and the process of baking in access from the start of the artistic and creative process.
Sure, it's Marjorie speaking. And just speaking specifically to the labs, it's a process that we're just starting. And it has to do with collaborating with the artist and having those conversations as early as possible. And that's also a shift in how we view the work and how we program the work as well. You know, I would say that there is some practice in the past of a lot of organizations where, you know, you see the show and then you program it in the next year. Well, that's also not a process that's actually helpful, I think, to the artist, just to speak to time and to remove the notion that the work is a product that hits a finished point and then gets presented, but that that process is all part of it from the very beginnings of those conversations, the project's evolution, and to when it sees an audience, and then the next time it sees an audience, and then the next time it goes on tour. That's an evolving piece. So for us, having those conversations earlier also means that we're making programming commitments much earlier. On all this is to benefit the art. To me, the art, the aesthetic, and the access should be living all in the same way, that we should be talking about these things at the same time. They're the same thing to me. So in that sense, having those conversations earlier. Now, how is that happening in practice? It's a slower process. Not everything we can just jump towards that. Not every artist is prepared to have these conversations as early as possible. They might be new to this process. So it's also introducing our artists to that timeline and to that process, as well as, to be frank, adjusting our budget to make sure that that is possible. End of thought. I don't know if anyone else on the team has any more to add to that from TPM or from Erin's process. Oh, I think Erin had to go.
This is Rachel speaking. Thanks, Marjorie. Yes, Erin had to leave. She did say that she would answer any questions on Friday. I also want to highlight that members of your team are putting information about upcoming events in the chat box. I had the opportunity to see Scored in Silence last year. Amazing. It's not to be missed, and I'm really looking forward to my opportunity to see Crippled. But I'm going to move on to another question that I had. And that is, what has the response been from the community, both your typical or previous or loyal audience members and the deaf and disability community to your access, like the implementation of your access points for your season?
I'm so sorry, you cut out, so I missed the beginning of the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rural internet at its finest. I'm just wondering what the response from the community, so that being both your previous or loyal audience members and also the deaf and disability community, has been to the implementation of so many access points in your seasons.
It's a big question. I'm wondering if someone else, there's lots of bits and parts to it. I would say the company response and then the kind of like theater industry response has been very strong. I would say a lot of that work happened before I arrived at TPM. That, just to give credit to Andy McKim, a lot of the initial paving of those roads had to happen in rough woods that required rough bushwhacking to be able to make it through. And in fact, where we're landed now, it means that we're able to push forward into kind of more innovative practices because we've set up some best practices. We're communicating the best practices. That's starting to be shared across the country through initiatives like this. And now we can actually move forward with accessibility. So I would say from the industry side, there's a huge interest in it. And it takes time though, and it's getting people to understand it does take the investment of time, and that does mean money and resources in order to make these things happen. But it's really critical that you give that time. Otherwise, you're doing a disservice to the work itself. And when I say work, I both mean the artistic work and the access work. Again, I think we want to think of them as the same thing. Maybe someone else wants to speak to the artistic community, either the disabled artistic community or in terms of the audience.
I can speak to in terms of, I think, the community engagement events that we've been doing. What's so great is that I think just sort of implementing things like, for example, visual descriptions or ASL interpretation or active listening into the everyday kind of, it's one of those, if not more than one of those things, will always be available, at every single event that we do. And I think what's so beautiful about that is that it's really great in raising awareness that these features are possible and that these features are able to be implemented. Like, for example, sometimes I serve as the active listener for TPM, and sometimes we still get people coming into the Zoom room being like, oh, what's active listening, And I think even something as simple as that, really, I think furthers just general awareness about access features and, and even just small, access kind of initiatives that you can put forward. And similarly with visual descriptions, like almost at every, book club meeting and every event that we have, we ask folks to provide visual descriptions. And even if, sometimes they're a little bit rough, it does get people's brains thinking about, hey, there might be people in the room who are not, are from the blind community or are from the low vision community and who are not like visually focused or visuals are not like a priority for them. And so even to get people thinking about all the different folks who might exist in a space that they might not even be aware of, I think is so important in terms of disability justice and activism. End of thought.
The only thing I was going to add to that is that the accountability for access is on everyone at TPM. Every person, from every front of house part-time staff to myself, to interim managing director Indrit, to all the staff you see here, to our production manager, we're responsible for it, and we hold that responsibility really really dearly, in fact, and we hold each other accountable, and that in fact makes the work amazing and part of that effort. The other thing that Angela is articulating is that we try to have access at every level, in every situation, in social situations, and I know that's not groundbreaking in that respect. That should be, that is a right. But to implement that is something else. And to the extent that we are looking into, so that we hope in a few years we can actually have a fully relaxed venue. And so that's the communications that we need to have with our artists as we move forward and as we prepare everyone for that eventuality and why we're moving towards that. But that's the kind of holistic place that we want to be able to offer. End of thought.
This is Rachel speaking. Thank you, Marjorie. I love that. I love that you talk about, every single person being accountable for accessibility. We often sort of have one person, as a consultant, I have one person who might come towards me, and then they're sort of battling with the rest of their team to get everyone on board. Whereas it's just so beautiful to see that it's just embedded in all of your work and in everything that your team does. And I say team because you definitely are coming across and you seem to work so cohesively together as a unit, which is lovely to see. Okay, I have one more question, I think, from Annika. I think she got kicked off and came back in. So I'll give her a second to see if she wants to type in the chat. Annika, if you're there. If not, we'll do a wrap up. I do have one question here from our team. And this is actually, I think, Angela, you spoke about this the most, but everyone touched on it. You talked about, making mistakes and sort of, moving on from mistakes. And the question is, how do you learn from a mistake, and how do you build or rebuild trust after that mistake has been made? End of thought.
Should I? Hi, this is Angela speaking. So the way I think about call-ins is from a very unique perspective, as I'm also, a disabled artist of color. So I have been on both sides of it, as well as an artist and an admin. I've both publicly anybody, if anybody like sees my Facebook, I've both publicly called companies out, and I've also been called out by other artists. And so the way I think about it is that I think because I can see it from both ends, I try to, take a deep breath, take a few moments to think before responding. And at the end of the day, recognize that what that person is giving me is a gift. And it's a gift and an opportunity for me to do better or to change something so that the next iteration of it could be better. And I know that sometimes there's a lot of, I think, questions and perhaps hangups around tone and, a place. But I think the best way for me as an artist, and for me as an artist to see like what would make me trust a company, is how they handle that. It's not necessarily that they made a mistake, because I kind of recognize that no organization is perfect and that we all have so much to work on. So it's not so much the mistakes I'm focusing on, but how kind and how graceful they are in their response to it. Are they willing to provide an apology? Are they willing to make a change? If they have reasons for why they're not making that change, are they willing to start a dialogue, with me about whatever issue that has come up, and are they sort of recognizing that at the end of the day, if you are in a position to be called in or called out, it's probably because you have some measure of power. It's because you hold something that other people need or desire. And to recognize that there is an inherent privilege in having that power, and also an inherent responsibility, in having that power, to be able to use it as beautifully and as gracefully as you can. And I know those are all like, I understand that like sometimes it can feel personal and sometimes it can feel very hurtful. But it's also a risk to that person who is making the call in or call out. As we can see in generally what happens to whistleblowers, even in our society and things like that, I think it is kind of risky on both ends. And if you are ultimately the party with that power, then I think there is a bit of responsibility for you to lead the way for that change. And, looking at what happened to us, I mean, it was a beautiful change. We met Ryan. We had this amazing new book. We had a whole event out of it. And, and I think that if you just take that moment to be kind to the person telling you and also being kind to yourself, then I really think it's an opportunity to, grow something beautifully creative, end of thought.
This is Rachel speaking. Thank you so much for that answer. I love it. That is all the time we have for questions today, but you can tell from our Q&A session, our short one, that it's going to be an exciting session on Friday. Before I turn things back over to Lauren, I'd really like to once again thank Erin, Marjorie, Jen, Angela, and April for taking the time to share their thoughts and knowledge and wisdom with us today. And I also really want to take a moment to thank those of you out there who took the time to come today and every other session or any other session that you could to share this learning journey with us. As a disabled human myself who lives with chronic pain and disease, I'm really excited to see that there are so many of you out there who are interested in taking steps towards access and inclusion. It's got me a little verklempt right now, so thank you. And finally, I'd like to take a moment to really thank everybody who's worked on and contributed to this series, both on screen and off, all of the presenters, and Catherine, Lauren, Fanny, Boron, Trisha, Mava, Deb, and Terry Lynn. Thank you all. That is the end of my thought. Over to you, Erin.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm going to just take some spotlights off, and you've done such a beautiful job thanking people. I'll just add a couple more. Okay, so this is Lauren Drew speaking from Orchestras Canada again. So on the screen, you'll see that we have a coffee chat this Friday. I've pasted in the chat the link to sign up for that. There's also a feedback survey. You'll get the recording and slide decks after via email. Thank you so much, Rachel, for being such a wonderful host and also for connecting us to so many of these wonderful presenters throughout. We really could not have curated this series without your expertise and connections. Thank you to our presenters today and throughout the series for sharing both your expertise and your art. The Government of Ontario for the generous funding through Enabling Change that made this project possible. You said all our colleagues behind the scenes, they're all wonderful. So Rachel, Fanny, Boran, Trisha, Catherine as well, everyone at Ontario Presents and Réseau Ontario. Our interpreters, this has been an amazing interpreter team. I'm so impressed by the adaptability and the amazing services and talents you provide everyone attending. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That is it for the series webinars, but please come to the coffee chat on Friday. We'd love to see you, and thank you so much. Take care, everyone, and have a wonderful day.